This is the start of the growing process. We're on the nursery now, the GreenIS nursery. And what you see around me are hundreds of thousands of seedling pods. I believe there are 350,000 here, and it's possible to have 3 attempts at seedling growth in a year. So potentially we have 1 million seedlings here. Clearly, 1 million seedlings are too many to handle, but we lose 40% anyway. So we're looking for a growth in 5 weeks to about this height, and then 40% of those seedlings will just be discarded because they're already showing signs of growing in the incorrect way. We're always looking for tall, straight growth. Any seedling that doesn't show that is discarded straight away. So 350,000 pods, they simply spread earth over the top, so all the pods are full to about this height. They then take a teak seed, the outer covering is discarded, and the seed itself is put into a tumbler so that the seed gets damaged. And it's not until the seed experiences damage that it will be prepared to germinate and grow. So after that process, the seed's inserted into the soil, the pod's put back. By this stage, they will have erected an irrigation system. It's been dismantled for the dry season. So the irrigation system will be in place, and for 5 weeks, there'll just be regular watering until the seedlings have grown sufficiently to be transplanted to the hardening off area.
我们现在看到的地方呢是种子培育中心。那么树的成长呢，一切都是由这边开始的。在这一片里面呢，有大概35万个类似于这样子的一个小管子。
So we have the seedling area 20 feet away from me. We've grown about 350,000 seedlings in one batch. As I say, that happens up to 3 times a year, depending on demand. We've lost 40% of those just through natural wastage, the seedlings not growing in a way that's suitable for transplanting. In addition, it may well be that some of those seedlings are sold to other farmers because we've got the capacity to grow the seedlings. The other farmers just want to plant them in a plantation and won't bother with the infrastructure to create seedlings in the first place. Whatever is decided is required is planted over in this area very densely, as you can see, very tightly together. And there will be another selection process, and we may well lose another 5–10% of these seedlings because, again, even though they were selected from the nursery, once they grow a bit taller, they're still not appropriate for transfer to the eventual plantation. And the seedling is uprooted, roots are trimmed off, the stem is hacked to leave a sharp angle so that water will run off and not collect and rot. And then all those sticks are then collected together and transferred for eventual destination in the plantation, where they'll be properly spaced and given room to grow correctly. So at the nursery, we saw that seedlings grew to about this height. They're transplanted to the hardening off area, and they grow to a height similar to this, or up to my chest. Then they're pulled out of the ground and chopped and trimmed. That stick was planted here. It was planted here about 6 months ago, but because it's been the dry season, there's not been a great deal of growth. It's only back to where it was in the hardening off area. In a month or so, the rainy season will start and this will shoot up, and in the first year it will grow certainly well above 3 metres. What they've done here is they've cleared the area. The teak doesn't like competition with other plants. This is mostly pasture, so the grass has been cleared. And down here you'll see that the teak stick has tried to grow more than one branch. Because we want this to grow tall and straight, this will be clipped off as part of the housekeeping in due course when they come and do maintenance on the whole field. These trees will be here now for the rest of their growing life, which will be approximately 18 years, maybe a bit longer. Okay, so this is an example of the thinning process. Right now, every tree that's here is of an optimum straightness and size, or approaching that. But these were trees which were too close to good trees, so they've been thinned out. And it's literally a case of chopping at the base and using these thin logs. They're not wasted. They are processed in the mill in the normal way. They're just not as valuable as a wider girth, more mature tree. Okay, so this isn't really an example of trees that will be transplanted, but I've come over here to look at the leaf litter. During the hot season, typically the teak tree will lose every leaf. So you'll see later on in the film a plantation in this hot dry season, there'll be virtually leafless. But we end up with a lot of leaf litter on the ground. And this is part of the reason why the seeds have to be traumatized, they have to be roughed up. Because in nature, this much litter is likely, over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of build-up, it will catch fire and sweep across the forest floor. Because the litter is so dry, it's almost like paper, it's a very flash fire. It doesn't harm the trees, there isn't enough material to generate enough heat for a green tree to catch fire. So in effect, the fire sweeps through and clears the plantation or the forest floor. And the seeds which are sitting on that floor recognize that they've been traumatized, and that will prompt them to germinate. And the reason evolution has decided that is because the young germinating seedling stands its best chance of not experiencing any other trauma immediately after a fire. So that fire triggers the germination process because it's deemed that the next year or so will be very safe for the seedling. just a point of trivia, but I find it very interesting. I've taken the opportunity to illustrate a point that may not be obvious. This is very fertile soil. You plant it, it will grow. Brazil is famous for this. But people don't realise that the fertile depth is very shallow. In fact, I've probably got a deeper soil base at home in the UK than you'll find around here. And as a result, this is typical of a tropical heartwood. They don't have deep roots, they spread sideways. And to the side, you'll see buttressing. So instead of a deep taproot and a straight tree, they have to provide their own support to the side, because as you can see, for a tree this size, this is a very shallow base, and this is what they rely on to stay upright. So without the support, they'd be very vulnerable to wind, damage and so on. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've been to the nursery in the hardening off area. Here we are in the marmoset plantation, and this is very near the end of the cycle of the teak tree. And the cycle started looking like this. This is a seed with a protective covering. And the way this works at the nursery is that all the seeds are freed, and they then have to be roughed up before they'll germinate. So these will go into a mixer and become roughed up, and then they're ready for planting. So from about 6 months old, that's when the trees arrive here in the plantation. We're looking at trees that are roughly 17 years old, and potentially within a year or two, these trees would be ripe for harvesting. They won't be harvested because this whole plantation, which is wholly owned by GreenIS, and all the trees on it, are actually held as the security, the debenture that provides the bond capital security. Now, you'll notice that everything is very regular. So the trees are planted here on an optimum distance. I'm not quite sure of this distance, but normally 2 meters by 3 meters intervals. It gives everyone an opportunity to maintain the trees and keep them in good health. And there's a factor as well in the distance the trees are apart, because there's a mix. The closer the trees are together, the taller they want to be, but they'll be thinner. The wider apart they are, the more girth you'll get on the trunk. So what the farmers here are trying to do is get the optimum distance, so they get the perfect combination of width of tree and height. And this is one of the formula that they're using here. In about 5 years' time, then the bond will be released. These trees will be cropped, and they'll be a little bit older than is normally the case, but they'll be older because they're under debenture and they're protected until that point. Here we are in Giroux, in the head office of GreenIS. I'm here with Guy Conroy, and Guy had the vision to start this company to grow wood in Brazil for export to the world market. He's got an interesting story to tell about the ethical standards and sustainability of the company, and I'm just going to hand over to Guy and he'll give a quick description of GreenIS. Guy.
Thank you, David. First and foremost, the business is built as a commercial operation. We are a business, we are here to make money.
You have to make profits.
Absolutely. I've been involved in timber all my life, since I left school a long time ago. However, I've always wanted to be involved with the manufacture, so everything from the start all the way through to the export of timber internationally, and we've managed to achieve that by through from nursery through to the planting of new plantations, through to sustainable plantations that we rotate the crop in, through to the harvest, the milling process, the final production of a material and a finished product, not just a log and a square, but an actual finished product, and then finally the export of the product as well. All of our timber is so with that in mind, all of our timber is fully sustainable, and we have to meet strict criteria for that from that's set out by the FSC. The FSC we've been working closely with them over the last 12 to 18 months to make our operation meet every criteria that they ask, and the criteria is quite involved, where we have to make sure that we have fair rates of pay, we have health and safety rules which are quite tight. We have to meet all of these criteria. We have to make sure that the working place, whether it be here in the head office or on the plantation or in the nursery or in the mill, meets health and safety rules. A lot of people think that in Brazil the health and safety is a little bit lax. It's not, it's actually quite strict.
Because you're internationally certified as well.
Exactly, we're internationally certified, so we are FSC certified globally. We hold a full certificate to be able to provide hardwoods to the international market.
And although you're originally a UK company, this is a wholly Brazilian operation run by Brazilians, so you're integrated into the community.
Absolutely. So
how many jobs are you providing at any one time?
So in the peak season when we're planting, it can be up to 100 employees. Normally it's somewhere between 30 to 50, depending on the quantity of wood that we're producing in the mills, because the mill is the intensive operation.
Yes, that's the labour-intensive part.
There's a lot of people working in the mills, and there's, I mean, in the head office here, where we have a warehouse as well, where we store the product here, and it gets resorted and packed, ready to go out to the marketplace. So this is the final sort of destination for any of the timber that leaves the country.
Yes.
It comes here, most of it comes here first of all.
Well, I've noticed when you've taken me around, because it's quite a big timber producing area historically, very, very large indeed. But most industries are fairly self-contained, so we see sawmills, we see plantations. I get the feeling that this is an unusual company in that you take it from the very start as a seed all the way through to a refined, mature product. That is unusual.
That is unusual. Within this area, we believe we are unique. Yeah. We are one of the only companies that are growing teak saplings. Yes. We have a license to sell to the local market, and we have a demand from the local farmers to provide them with saplings. Yeah. So we don't only provide for ourselves, but we provide for the community. So if they want to plant a small piece of land themselves with trees, we can help them in that whole operation.
So effectively that's another employment in a sense, because you're helping them grow trees which you then buy and provide them with an income.
So we then purchase those trees in the future, and then we can mill them and harvest them and mill them, and then if they want they can replant again, and we're here to give them the support that's required for that, and everything at a fair price as well.
Yes. And that whole process, because it's under your control, the quality standards, or whatever you determine, you're not subject to.
No, it's everything is set by us. So our quality, the quantity, the amount that we export, everything is controlled by us. We're not governed by anything else, really.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.